Born.
Yeah.
United Front.
Tell it.
What you want, what you want, what you want.
To the Knowledge Radio.
We in here. What you got? Dot.
Work hard as a slave to one day be your savior. The wave unwavering. This is a labor of love. Rise with a purpose every day. Invigorated. If we were on TV, we'd be 10 times syndicated. If we waited for validation, a paycheck or accolades, we'd be starved, already lost or ran away. But when you're square solid and you circle too, you don't need a place for silence. The concept is conquered through media, not areas of people activity. A mix that don't lose ethnicity, tightness that don't lose elasticity. Explicitly, this isn't where we give the novice regard. Nah, this is where knowledge is born. Last time that I checked, I'm undefeated. Deliver edicts, can't resist when the gods build and manifest freedom. When lines get crossed, they may push a loss, cause they get handed a check. We kick your can and cancel your cancerous gestures. A prophet vision, precision, the prescription for the sickness is to inoculate your fate with the winning. Arrogant beginnings turn to humble endings. And US with KBA is a win-win. 1K, 1K.
Power was first in 48. I'm always honored to the cross from one of the men I think very important, reshaping, reframing of our African sense of consciousness, most especially, that's the African family in collective, most especially the African man. To the cross from the definition of African manhood. You know, a Baba who is true in every sense of the word. I think we need to re-examine some of these designations that we give out so freely without meeting certain standards and qualifications. So this is one who is a standard maker and a standard bearer in word and in deed. And we begin to glean as African people from the type of discipline and the type of dedication and consistency that our Baba has dedicated to his own self-improvement. So when we look within, and we begin to do that work within, the African world benefits from the residuals based off of the work that we do from within. So with our ancestral guidance, we are able to take a deeper look within and begin to correct deficiencies. So efficiency can be the order of the day. So it becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some, present to others. The race first man himself. We ain't seen a race first man like this since Tony Martin. You understand what I'm saying? One who has renewed and brought some vigor and some zeal back into what it means to be race first as we transition to African only. My brother and warrior comrade in this struggle for the liberation and salvation of the African family, Baba Imhotep.
Thank you, my brother. It's a pleasure always to be on your show. I like the platform, and it allows us to be able to engage in the necessary conversations to impact the minds of our people and to reignite their spirit. So I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion as we talk about African Independence Day and many other things. I'm looking forward to being a part of African Independence Day this year. I believe I was a part of African Independence Day probably 9 years ago, give or take. I believe in 2012, I was a part of African Independence Day. And then I was asked to come out and be a part of it again, probably around 2016, something like that. But I didn't, I don't think I made that, so I'm honored to be, a part of this one and this year right here and this time. I believe the times are always what they are. And we are living in some very, very crucial times. And I believe that the severity of the times dictates the severity of our attitudes. And I think it's our responsibility those of us who are clear about what's taking place to help clarify for others so we can become a serious people. Too many of us are not serious enough about the business of African sovereignty. We're not serious enough about changing these conditions in a real way. We're not serious about challenging and ultimately dismantling, white terrorism. And we have to be serious about that because it's a menace in our lives, man. It's a destroyer. And we have to be very, very serious about making sure that it can't do what it's designed to do. So I'll stop there.
Now, I wanted to show you something real quick. These two books right here. I wanted to kind of put the conversation together, centered around these two books. I think, each edition offers something very, very pivotal in the mind. So I wanted to, ask, I think I asked before in a subsequent interview, but I want to ask again the reason for the second edition, and then I have some additional questions on it as a whole. What was the precipice? What was the catalyst, or what need arose in your mind to come out with the second edition?
I'll say this. The conditions that we are under as a people have impacted all of us in many different ways. And one thing that I've came to realize after almost 30 years of doing this work is that something serious have happened to us as a people. There's no doubt in my mind. So the first edition of that book is called African Manhood in the 21st Century. UrBan Philosophical Protocol, Frame of Reference. The entire book essentially is about how I conceive that the African black man should be. So essentially, the book is about character. I don't gotta say that. If you read it, you're gonna arrive at that conclusion. So many people ask me, Baba, why didn't you write about character in the book? So that's why if you look at that first book, there's no essay on character in the first book. In the second book, I had to go back and write an essay on character to put in the book. Because it baffled me that the question came about, because the book is about character. So in my efforts to, address all my people and to respond to my people, so I had to add a piece specifically on character in the second one, and a piece on accountability and responsibility, which the first book implicitly talk about that. But I had to be more specific in the second book. So that's why, in the second book, I add that in. And also in the second edition, I added under the core areas of manhood, I added an additional area on marriage. Even though in the first book, I make mention of marriage throughout the book in different parts of the book, but I felt there was a need to add it to the core areas of manhood as our own area of focus. So I added that in. So that's what brings about that second edition. And the way I think of it, hopefully 5 years from today, I'll grow on it some more, and I'll expand it some more, and I add some more elements into it, as we move about, because, it's about the consistency to update and refine and reshape and remold so things can be on time and right on time. And that's what I strive to do.
Yeah, definitely amazing. I don't know if I asked you before, what was it like to receive an introduction from our 21st century scholar, the premier 21st century scholar, Baba Dr. Nwali Mu Barudi. in your book?
I didn't take it lightly. I know Baba is very serious minded. He don't play any games. He's crystal clear about what we need to do and how to go about doing it. And I don't think a lot of people understand how clear Baba is. Baba, Baba moves. He's clear. So when I asked him if he would consider writing an introduction, and he said yes. But what made me ask him is because prior to writing that book, I had did a lecture DVD called African Manhood. And a lot of what I talked about in that DVD, I was able to put inside the book. But Baba had a copy of that DVD for about 3 years prior to me writing this book. And I know that he would always reference that DVD and let me know that DVD, that he used it a lot with a lot of the warriors in training. So I knew that he was, for the most part, in alignment with some of the ideals and the concepts that I was, introducing. So for him to write the introduction, to read the introduction, it was an honor to have his, introduction added into the book. And it's just an honor, in my opinion, overall opinion, to be able to have the relationship with other serious-minded individuals that's older than you. He's older than me. And just to be able to have that relationship with someone that's older than me that's doing the work, and to get that reassurance from him every now and then, because he's not in the business of trying to stroke anybody's ego, because we shouldn't be in the business of doing that. He's not in the business of trying to flatter anybody, because we shouldn't be trying to flatter anybody. We should always be honest with each other. If you do good work, then I got to be honest about you, let you know it's good work. If you do work with good intentions, but it's not up to par, I need to let you know, I know your intentions are on point. I know you committed, but I think you need to put some more effort into this right here. We need to be able to communicate with each other that way, so we can raise the quality up amongst us as a people. So I was honored and I was pleased with the introduction.
Yeah. Standard and standard bearer. I use those terms as qualifiers because they could be easily be used as disqualifiers. You have a standard that's set. And, oftentimes in this optional society that we exist in, standards, they waver or they become relaxed, depending on who it applies to. And then they say in what context it applies in. You see what I'm saying? So knowing that there exists a standard of African excellence in regards to the African family, African men, African women, African children, for us to adhere to return to the African excellence that we descend from, that there's a pathway,
Yes.
that's clear. And, as our ancestor, Baba Koki Sr. taught us, clarity is necessary on the battlefield. You have confusion on the battlefield, it's a detriment.
Absolutely
clarity
necessary.
on the battlefield is something that is of importance, utmost importance.
And the lack of confusion, the lack of clarity and the introduction of the confusion is really on a basic level. It's the culprit that exists in the midst of a lot of the work that we're trying to do. Like, we could get a whole lot more work done as a people if most of that confusion didn't exist. But the confusion exists because people don't want to apply themselves to understand what needs to be understood. Like, we are under the impression that we can just wake up and run out here and just do the work. It doesn't work that way. You have to do the studying. And that studying is what allows us to become clear. And the clarity allows us to regulate and direct ourselves so that we can be effective. I think you probably dropped my brother, so as always, I'll just keep on. I'll hold the fort down until you get back in. But yes, so to keep building on clarity, clarity comes from our ability to study, our ability to think, our ability to reflect, our ability to sit down and work out new ideas and concepts and write these things out. This is what we must be able to do, and to go back into ourselves and reassess the thoughts and ideals that we think we have that are prevalent. You know, what I mean by prevalent, these thoughts and ideas are prevalent with us, and they're shared by other people, and we think that these thoughts and ideas are always accurate or correct. We got to be able to go in there and look at those things and make sure. I'll give one point is this. For a very long time, you know, it was believed that, and a lot of people said this, and we still say this to this day, you know, it was believed that African people migrated into Africa out of Asia. You know, that was a common thing, you know, and people said that, and it's okay, because when you get knowledge, you go through stages and phases. You get information, and you realize that this isn't as on point as you thought it was, and you get something else. So we got to know how to go back to reassess things. And as we go along and you study more, you know that we didn't migrate out of Asia into Africa. We originated inside of Africa, whatever you choose to call that landmass, you know what I'm saying? But clarity is work. You work for clarity. You establish clarity. You cultivate it. You forge clarity within yourself by working on yourself, by reassessing your thoughts and your ideas, and developing new thoughts and new ideas by being deep thinking. You know, that's the African way, African deep thought, you know, to go into yourself and to bring out of you what you already have within you. And this is how you become clear. And then watching our ancestors and understanding the ancestral ways is the reason why our ancestors put specific things in place, because the things, the systems, and the processes they put in place, it allowed them to be effective and fluid as a people. I'll give an example. To make sure that we go through a successive stages of initiations, if you will. You know, you got to go through these different rites in the African societies, because going through those initiation, those rites, it makes you better than you are. It prepares you for a new stage in life. But when you don't go through anything in life, you're not prepared to deal with anything in life. You know, we got to go through things. We have to be subjected to something. You got to be subjected to a process that you see it through. You got to be subjected to a process that demands that you humble yourself. You know, a lot of us can't even humble ourselves. So we can't take instructions. You know, we want to talk back. We don't know when to listen to the teacher. We want to try to teach the teacher. You know, if the elder's talking, you listen. Simple as that. Because you don't know if that's your last time talking to the elder. The elder already know if you're doing the work or not, so you ain't got to try to show the elder what you know. You listen to the wisdom. You listen to the wisdom. That's not to say that you can't teach him, because we can learn from everybody. But it's not your role to teach the elder. Your role is to listen, to get the wisdom. Now, the elder may ask you a question. It may be a conversation. But you don't keep cutting the elder off to try to assert your thoughts and your ideas out there. That's a lack of discipline. And we deal with that as a people, you know, and we got to get past that and get to the place where, as though we're striving for clarity, and part of being clear is to understand what your ancestors understood and be as they were.
Now, we're in Race First Awareness Week, and I wanted to ask you about some of the events you have coming up, some of the events you have planned. I know we were on, you know, a couple of days ago, but I wanted to share the conversation with the family that was on. So just glad I had another opportunity to unpack some of those things that you have going on this week. And for the month of Black August, I know I saw something to the effect, an ode to the great debaters. You know, can we talk about, you know, those events that you have planned and kind of like your mind frame behind the events?
So basically, what's happening with the National Race First Awareness Week, which commenced on July the 25th this year, is it only made right. It's only right that if it's coming through me and it's being pushed out there, it only made sense that as an organization that we be some of the first to acknowledge it and commemorate it the best that we could. So on the 25th, we did the inauguration, I led by me. On the 27th, which was yesterday, some of the sisters did, they did like a hip hop radio type of engagement type of situation where they played some music or videos and then allowed the people to come in and give their interpretations. That was in commemoration. Then tomorrow it will be the debate, which is going to be led by one of the younger brothers that's in the organization. He's going to lead, not necessarily the typical type of debate, but it's really going to be a general discussion. But whoever come in that discussion, at some point, he just going to divide the people up, and then they'll just get into a funny debate about, how they see things and stuff like that. So it's kind of a different format that he's, going for. And then on the 30th of this week, the Art of Race First host, we'll be back on an interview with Brother Larry Shaw. And then on August the 1st, which will be, the beginning of the Black August month, because the National Race First Awareness Week is going to end on Saturday. But on August the 1st, we here in Baltimore, we have the Race First Community Reunion Cookout. And what that's all about, it's about the basis of that is to try to reach out to everybody that's in the Baltimore area or the surrounding area, and anybody else want to be a part of that, but pretty much people that say they are linked into doing the work that we do. So this cookout's for all those people, because some of them don't even see themselves. We don't see each other that much and so on and so forth. So it's a reunion. Get all us back together. We can build, we can connect, we can reconnect, we can laugh, we can do some things like that. We can recharge and then we disperse and get back into doing the work. So that's what that's all about. But what I've been doing this week as one of the suggestions for the National Race First Awareness Week is I suggest that we watch Black documentaries with Black lectures. So what I've been doing this week is pretty much watching a different documentary with my two younger sons, and then having a Race First discussion with them about it. Today we watched, today, the other 3 days I chose the documentary. Today they requested 1804. So we watched 1804. They love Tucson and they love Bookman, they love McIntyre, they love Jean-Jacques Dessalines. They got an admiration for them, and they wanted to, see them and talk about them and put that in the Race First context. So that's what we did today. But my hopes is that for all of us to understand that, see, Kwanzaa was given to us, and we see Kwanzaa once a year, most of us. But those of us who truly understand, we know that the Nguzo Saba is a Black value system. So since it's a Black value system, it's something that you carry with you always. So the second principle of the Nguzo Saba is Kuji Chagulia, self-determination, to define for ourselves. So this reintroduction and this reconceptualization of race first is an act of self-determination. That's what it is. It's an act of self-determination because I am redefining, and technically by doing so, we are redefining for us. So this implementation and the inauguration of the National Race First Awareness Week is an act of self-determination. We're going to name it, claim it, and we're going to commemorate it. It's ours. All it takes for us to do is to get in sync with it and rock with it. And we'll begin to see the importance. Now, let me put this here, because I know how a lot of us are. A lot of us don't like to listen to the underlying principles, and a lot of us don't have vision. We really dim. We got a lot of intellect, but we don't got vision. So for those who want to say this right here, because you got the naysayers, when I'm Race First all year long, I don't see the need for, the National Race First Awareness Week. I do Race First all year long. You got the kind of person, right? So I could say the same thing. I do it all year young. I've been doing it for almost 30 years, right? However, I understand and I know the importance of symbolism, because African people are very symbolic people. And I also know the importance of us creating, those sacred moments and those sacred symbols, those sacred days for us, because it motivates and it inspires our people, because all of our people don't do it all year long. You know what I'm saying? So because they all don't do it all year long, you still need those things that's going to put the spark in them, you know. So that's the reason why we need a national Race First Awareness Week, because we are not within our totality of our culture. So since we're not in our culture and we're up against a cultural war, we got to consistently implement cultural things to ward off the transgressions, to defend ourselves, and at the same time to re-inspire and to reinvigorate our people. So that's why there's a need for a national Race First Awareness Week, so we can centralize our thinking and center our thoughts around race first during that time period, so we can amplify that energy and raise it up in the hopes that we inspire new soldiers and new warriors.
Yeah, they do the same thing with Black History Month. You know, every February they come with it. And if we go back and look, you know, with Negro History Week, you know, you see the same type of instances. And this was, you know, what Dr. Carter G. Woodson was speaking about, like not seeing us in the annals of history. You know, enemies going as far as to say that the African made no considerable contribution to civilization. So, in that vein, he began to chronicle that story, you know, with the association of Negro life and history, you know. So, some of these same things, you know, to be reinvigorized and be established and re-emphasized on our path to liberation, you have to have sacred spaces that we hold, that
That's
aren't
right.
given to us, that are constructed, that are, you know, founded by us, pushed. You see what I'm saying? So I'm very interested, before I get to my next question, about the young African warriors you had, and, you know, their thoughts on this philosophy, and, you know, some of the things that you could, if you could share with us a little bit about y'all race first context discussion about 1804.
So basically, yes. From their point of view, my question to them is always, where do you see or understand race first in their actions? And so by them being young and looking at it, one of their thinking is that is race first to not stay enslaved. Is race first for them to fight against the white people and to help other African people become free. So they saw it from their point of view. That's race first. So they like the fact that Dessalines wasn't necessarily trying to be a Frenchman in a sense. So he wouldn't have fell for the same rules that Toussaint fell for, you know, that allowed himself to get, you know, kidnapped and trapped and then get locked away, you know. So they felt like the fact that he thought that he was equal with the French, they felt like that was a flaw, you know. They felt like Dessalines' stance was more race first in that instance there, you know. So that's more so how they saw it, and those are the things that they kind of pulled out.
I think that's essential building blocks to build on, you know, to see them young African warriors understand that position and know that that position is foreign to them. I think that's very critical. You know, how many grown people we got to have that conversation with, Bob? You understand what I'm saying? With
Yeah.
young warriors, you know, who are seeking to dim that spirit of insurrection and that spirit of reformation in them, you know, and pushing in this go along to get along mentality, you know, that long suffering kind of mentality, not in a space where it's useful. Like we know that it takes a process and you have to be prepared when you're dealing with the hearts and minds of African people to be able to pull them out of the trauma and the drama that they find themselves in transgenerationally. That's long suffering, not in the long suffering sense of somebody just supposed to beat you and brutalize you and destroy you and rape and pillage you, and you're just supposed to take it. So I think it's very critical for the minds of them young warriors to be able to pull that out foundationally. This is not it. Like, you're supposed to fight against this. You know what I mean? I think that was very, very beautiful, to even hear. Like, it's refreshing to my ears. You see what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
that's one of the biggest tug of wars, if you would have, like, going back and forth with grown folk that's responsible for children and grandchildren. You see what I'm saying? Like, that fight to they lost that light is dim within them, and that's another credit and love that I give to Bob Baruti is, he didn't get into the, I'm I'm an elder, I'm getting into heaven type of situation. You see what I'm saying? Like the fire is still there, it's still evident, it's still relevant, and it's still a very, discerning factor in regards to, who is supposed to be amongst him and who's supposed to be amongst us and not. So normally, that fire goes out and it becomes less of a, a push in, many of our elder generation. You see what I'm saying? So it's very evident, and I'm glad to see that in our youth that it still exists and that it's being properly cultivated and shaped in a way, to where, it won't go out. It won't burn itself out, and it won't be, so dim that it could be easily extinguished. So
Yes.
just wanted to say that. So I just wanted to go next into African independence and African Independence Day. What was it like for your experience? You said, back in 2012, you know, your mentality then versus your mentality now. What was it like addressing, that crowd, things like that? And what are some of the things that the people could look forward to hearing from you, come Saturday, August 7th, right here on Through the Knowledge Radio?
I think for me, in all the lectures that I've done, if a person was to listen to all of them, my lectures never really deviate too far. It's like a central thing to run through all of them. I'm always emphasizing who we are in the importance of knowing who we are. Always, I can't get off of that because I understand how therapeutic it is. I understand how much edifying it is to know yourself from a cultural and a spiritual place. When you truly know who you are culturally and spiritually, it edifies you. So I can never deviate from that premise. So in all of my topics, when I talk about, I keep it in there: culture, socialization, and knowing our way. I might say Njia Yetu, which is our way. And what I mean by our way, I'm talking about our culture. About culture, I'm talking about what we demonstrated prior to coming in contact with Asians or white people, our way. How we viewed ourselves in relation to the universe, how we viewed ourselves in relation to nature. The fact that we respected the social order, we respected the natural order, the cosmic order, and the spiritual order. So I tell people all the time, for us, see, sin is evil. See, for us, evil wasn't the quote unquote devil. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't necessarily conceptualize this devil. See, for us, we knew that our longevity and our prosperity was contingent upon how we harmonized with the world around us, because we was in fact one with that world. So we had orders in place. You got a natural order that exists. If you get into the Kemetic cosmology, that natural order is Ma'at. So Ma'at exists in terms of the order, that divine order that that was set in place. We, as a people, we respected that order. We protected that order. And we and we built societies that operated in conjunction with that order. So we didn't violate the natural order. We didn't violate the cosmic order. We didn't violate the spiritual order. But anytime any one of those orders are violated, that's evil. Evil. The introduction of evil is a breakage in the order. When the order is disrupted, that's evil. So for me, the theme is unify or die. There's only one way we can truly unify as a people. Not necessarily on the macro sense, but we can be unified in thought, in deeds, if we all understand what we should and should not be doing. If we know we should, case in point, we shouldn't be sleeping with the enemy. Now, if we all understood that, then we're going to be unified around that principle. Supports that. You know, you don't betray your own people. If we all understand that, we'll be unified around that principle. You don't disrupt organizational structure. If we understand that, we'll be unified. So if we follow the order that's in place, we can get unified, right? Oftentimes we hear the word unified and we think that we're talking about everybody got to belong to some massive organization. No, that's not even feasible. We're not belong to some massive organization. We can be organized on principle, on code. And if we get organized on code, we can maximize the results that we seek. So my position, unify or die, we want to come together under our way, or we're going to continually be ravaged by living in accordance with someone else's way. It's either our way and success, someone else's way, and death. Simple as that.
All right. Well, I mean, you don't need to be no clearer than that. You understand what I'm saying? So let's talk about some of the stuff that your organization and your fam is doing, you know, PLM and your family in regards to, you know, community outreach and also building those child development centers, and anything else you want to touch on organizational wise that you can share with us, you know, while I got you here.
I think one of the things that's organizationally that's being done that's pretty much being, you know, my wife, you know, is always pushing, you know, pushing really big and trying to get more women and sisters involved in it, is Wake Up, Rise Up Sisters. You know, she called it woo-woos. And I see that as being something that's prominent, and I see it as being something that's necessary. Because at the end of the day, it got to be a place in a space for sisters to truly come together to address a lot of issues. Now, I'm not saying brothers don't need the same thing, because I know a lot of times when you make one statement, we automatically think that you're saying that the other don't need it. But I'm just pretty much responding to your question. So I wanted to highlight woo-woos because that's something that's coming out the organization. You know, it's the brainchild, you know, of Mama Ife, you know, but it's great for women. And so it's always a big push behind that. In terms of, we got a youth organization as well, the UrBan Youth Initiative Project. We're trying to pretty much resituate that and get that back operational, you know, until its fullest capacity. So we got a program that we're about to launch August the 2nd. And that's the SAFO Development Program. And what that is, it's a manhood development program for boys. So check this out. I say a manhood development program for boys ages 6 to 13. And the reason why it's a manhood development program, because every single boy born into the world should instantly enter into processes that prepare him for manhood. We mistakenly wait too long to begin talking to our children about manhood and womanhood. And they mess around and start having children, and then they start making all these bad decisions as parents, and we come down on them and start condemning them as if they know how to be. but they had no preparation, none at all, because we're following the white people's thinking that manhood and womanhood exist on some type of linear line that you're just going to arrive at by default. You can't become a man or a woman by default. You got to be, both of those have to be cultivated. So that's the reason why we felt the need to institute this program, the ASAFO Development Program, a manhood development program for boys ages 7 through 13. So we're going to be kicking that off August the 2nd. And then, me and Mama Ife, we got so many years of just working with different people in terms of one-on-one, life coaching, spiritual coaching, decision-making, anger management, emotional intelligence. So it made sense for us to just go ahead and launch NOMO Consulting Services, LLC, which all of that falls underneath of that. So we most definitely been doing that lately. And, a lot of people have been reaching out to us for different services, and we've been able to meet those needs. And we're going to continue to do that. And that's something that I'm planning on doing coming up pretty soon with the Race First, because once we come out the Race First rally, we really got to buckle down and start thinking about, like you said, we got to start thinking about 2022. You know what I'm saying? But the things that need to take place in that time period will be some things that I'll be rolling out real soon.
Now, can we discuss a few resounding things? A couple that's positive and a couple that's negative in regards to, complementary conversation and some areas of emphasis or areas need to be addressed, amongst, African men and women in relationship.
Okay, so in my experience, I believe most relationships start off wrong. Start off wrong because a lot of times we have the wrong person, whether that's male or female. We with the wrong person. And I'm gonna speak from a man's point of view. Most of the men that I've spoken with and speak to, they with somebody that they're with someone that they do not mesh with, and that's because they was thinking more so about her physicality. Now that play a part, but that can't be the sole determining factor. So once you see something that catches your attention and your attraction, your initial conversations has to be about nation building. A lot of times what we do, we postpone that conversation because we're trying to do what? We're trying to present our representation to the person rather than present our true selves. Then we get in these relationships with this person, and then we want to try to bring back to the person what we standing for. We're trying to implement all this other stuff. It's too late now because she didn't meet you on those grounds. That's not what you started off talking about. You know what I'm saying? Your first 6 months, you was talking something else. You wasn't this quote unquote African-centered individual, because a lot of times we tuck it, because we're not 100% standing on it. So I say, so for me, we talk about complementary relationships. Our selection process got to be on point. And that's the reason why we need to use the wisdom of other people, principally mama, baba, or elder that got some sense to aid us in the process of dealing with getting a woman, right? Case in point, I got this book. I've been doing this research on African. I've been studying African culture for a very long time. And so lately I've been digging deep into the Congo. So one of the things that in the Congo, what they was talking about is they was talking about being married. And what he says is this. He was talking about how he said no one select their own mate. They say that in the Congo, in this particular sector of the Congo, he said that when one come of age and he or she is ready to date or whatever, if it's a male specifically, he will go to his uncle. but not someone who don't have knowledge and wisdom. He would go to an uncle of knowledge and wisdom and an uncle that got good character. This is how you break it down, and this is being written by someone that's from this area in the Congo. And he said the uncle would begin to seek out a bride for him. And when the uncle identified a bride, the uncle would talk to that female's uncle or whoever on her side about the potential of her being involved with his nephew. And after the uncle had those conversations, then there would be an introduction between the two and let the two go. So in most cases, the bride and the groom don't even know each other prior to actually coming together. Right? Because the reason why we come together can't be about my personal feelings and my personal interests solely. See, the two people that come together are only symbolic of something that's greater. They're symbolic of something that's greater. We're bringing together these two families, these two communities for what? To add to the power, the resources, and things of that nature. So that's more so what it's about. So now I know we can't carry it like that over here totally. I get it. But I'm bringing that up because we can modify things. We can still function according to the principle, but we can modify it for where we are at. And the modification can be this right here. So, you know, you out at an event, whatever, you see somebody that you like her, so on and so forth. You and her start communicating. Bring her to the wise people in your community. And let the wise people in your community meet her, talk to her, assess her, primarily the wise women, older women in your community. Let them help you make the decision to make sure you have selected the correct person, and vice versa. If it's a woman and she's in such a community and she meet a guy, she need to bring that guy to the wise men of her community. Let them engage him, talk to him, meet him, interrogate him, and let them help her make a decision as to whether or not he would be the one for her in this community. We don't do that. We don't do that. So that's one of the things that we got to work towards being able to do that there. It's going to make it's going to help out a whole lot. The next thing I would say in terms of complementary relationships is that we got to have a vision that complements. And that doesn't mean that one person got to have the total vision. The vision should be nation building. Now, if it's nation building, then we can work out how we're going to get to that. The different things. Now, my role might be I want to just work with the boys. Cool. Your role might be you want to work with the girls. Cool. But we know we're doing all this not just for us. We're not doing it just for self-gratification. We're doing this to get the nation building. So now we got a shared vision. Now, the next thing, what? We got to have also some shared customs. So we should both be trying to be what? Re-Africanized. So I shouldn't be arguing with you about as to whether or not we're going to do Kwanzaa or Christmas. I shouldn't even have that conversation. I should automatically knew before I got with you as to whether or not that conversation was even going to come up. That's not a conversation I should be having. So we got to be culturally on the same path. So those are the three things that I would say just off the top of my head. There's many more, but those three things pop out. You know what I'm saying? We got to be, our selection got to be correct, a shared vision, and a common cultural practices. If we can get that, that's going to minimize a whole lot of stress.
So now my question next is reconciliation. You know, like what are some of those keys of, you know, bringing back an awareness? Like we got race first awareness week, we got race first mentality, we got a race first mindset. You know, how do you reconcile those things? Maybe someone didn't have that information. Maybe they grew up in families that was dysfunctional. They didn't have that kind of mind frame. How do you reconcile those things, you know, complementary wise in regards to, you know, you see a brother and a sister and they come to y'all for counseling, you know, they have this within them. They have the ability to be able to come back, but how does that process begin, you know, and reconciliation? What would that look like?
Where I'm at in reference to doing the work, you know, since I've been doing it for close to 30 years, I've come to realize that that internal how a person reconciles that within him and herself, they have to be ready for it. So if I can't sense or determine that they're ready for the guidance that would allow them to reconcile, I put no effort into it. Because it's a misuse of my energy, and my time and energy at this stage is selective and is valuable, and it's only reserved for those who understand the value of what I have. That's it. Right? So what I'm saying is this: so if a person come and we having conversation, I'm filling that individual out. If I can sense receptivity and humility, then we can work. We can work. But if I'm talking to somebody and you consistently cut me off before I complete my thoughts, and every time you cut me off, you're trying to share with me an opinion, because I know when you're just talking. I always know when I'm talking to an informed person or a person who just got a bunch of opinions. And if you're such a person who just got a head full of opinions, but you have nothing based on any concrete, like I give an example. When I study people, I study everything they put out. So it's not a single book. It's not a single English written book that Cheikh and Ajak put out that I haven't read several times. Not a single one. Every Dr. Ben book, We the Black Jews, you know what I'm saying? From African captives to insane slaves, all of his stuff. You know what I'm saying? Africa, the motherland, Africa, the mothers of Western religions, the black men of the Nile. So when I study everything France Fanon put out, down. Baba Wade Nobles, done. Right? So I know when I'm talking to a person who is uninformed, but don't have the knowledge and the wisdom to know that they're uninformed. So when I get that kind of person, every time I'm trying to talk, you cut me off and you only giving me some opinion. It's not informed from any type of thorough, diligent study. I do not waste time with you. You're not ready for me. You're ready for someone else, but you're not ready for me. Right? I need people who are going to be humble. I need people who's going to be receptive. Right? So that's the only way that I feel that it can be reconciled inside of an individual, if they are humble and receptive.
So now that same question, I'm just switching the subject matter and context. African independence. You know, my question with that is, we have African Independence Day. Do African people have what it takes to regain African independence?
Yeah, our people are naturally endowed with the capacity to self-govern, to reinstitute the reconsolidation, the restoration, and the reclaiming of Africa, because our independence is going to be predicated upon that sovereignty. And no doubt we have that within us. I don't doubt our capacity, and nor do I question our ability. I am just clear about how some of us have been harmed and damaged. And some of us have been damaged in ways that we have become detrimental not only to ourselves, but to us as a collective. So I must be mindful of those individuals as I move forward.
Definitely want to know that the people that is on your team is not just looking to win a game, to take some pictures and hold up a trophy. You definitely want to know that the people that are there, they are committed to the overall victory and success of the team. Victory and winning has to be in their mind. Regardless of the score, that's on the board. You know, working with young people as a coach, youth sports, and when I say young people, it's indiscriminate to age because you get a 5-year old and a 55-year old on a basketball court, and they're the same age. They exhibit the same behavior. Your job, in that essence, is to make a team out of a bunch of individuals. Once you make the team, you have to forge within them a kind of love and a kind of solidarity that nothing or no one can break, not even the score on the board or their performance in a particular game.
Yes, I agree.
So when we looking at that, we become selective, like you were saying. We got qualifiers and disqualifiers. They don't bring you in to be a part of the team. You know, you just don't just come to the team. You understand what I'm saying? You got to do a workout with the team because the team is already established and you want to be a part of the team. So we have to know that you're going to be subject to and pass whatever the task and what the standards is when it comes to being a part of this team. You know, you can't be like, well, I see y'all win last season. I want to be a part of a winning team. You know, because you get people like that. You see what I'm saying? This becomes a thing that becomes a passing fad, and then people want to be around for the sake of being around. You know, like we saw Charles Barkley and them switch and go from teams, hoping that they could be on the bench somewhere so they can get a championship. You see what I'm saying? So you
Yes.
got people like that that exist and they live their lives like that. They come around, you know, when things are faddish and when things become cool. You know, they don't have time in like you got time in. They ain't take losses. You see what I'm saying? They didn't lose people along the way. You know, those sacrifices aren't there. So it's just something to say for something's sake. You know, there's no substance to what they're saying because they haven't been through anything that'll qualify it. You see what I'm saying? So these are all of the things in regards to building your team and then having your team because practice becomes vital because this is where your team building and your scenarios come in preparation for battle because once you on the field and you in battle, that's either you did what you're supposed to do in practice or not. In the game is execution. In battle is execution. You see what I'm saying? So this is why it's consistent and persistent. You're doing these drills, so you don't have to think about those drills in combat. You're executing those drills in combat because if you think about it, you lost. You see what I'm saying? So now, if you started out with 13 people and one of those people goes down, that team still has to do the work of 13 people. You know, in Vietnam, they discovered something great. They said anytime that they injured one U.S. coalition force member, it took 7 people to take them off of the battlefield. So essentially, every time somebody went down, you took 8 people out of the fight. So if you're outnumbered and outgunned, you're looking at ways to take your battlefield advantage and edge back into your span of control. So you have to be able to have those guys on your team that are prepared to do those things and have the mind frame, that renewed mind frame of what success on the battlefield looks like long term, not just short stints. So, is there anything else that you wanted to speak about? You know, anything you wanted to remind the people or anything mind to draw their attention to as we close?
Yes, basically just, make sure y'all tune into, the 17th annual African Independence Day Mod celebration. Tune into it. Find out when it's happening, what time it's going to be happening. Make sure you tune into it. And then once we coming out with that, just make sure we getting ourselves tight, man. That's my only ask of us, and I ask this of everybody, is let's get serious and let's tighten up. Let's not make excuses for lax behavior, and let's not condemn or point fingers at those amongst us who don't slow down, who keep moving, because you fall out of sync, you start saying something about them. Let's not do that to each other. Let's get tight, man. Because we living in some serious times, man, and some wicked things are happening to us in this land. And we got to do better. We got to do better. We got to stop making these excuses. We got to stop all this infighting, picking at each other. Tighten up, grow up. We got these daddy issues that we dealing with. We got these mommy issues we dealing with. We ain't been hugged enough growing up, so now we want attention. If you don't get attention, you got a problem. If I don't like your photo, you got a problem. Me personally, I'm not into, liking. I'm not into it, but I do it because so many people into it. You know what I'm saying? You get phone calls and text messages. I seen you like this person picture. Why you ain't like mine? So this is the bull crap we got to deal with, right? And it's sickening, man. It's sickening. It's sickening. It's childish. And we got to stop. We got to stop that because we dying out here. Our children are dying out here. And look at our little girls. Our little girls walk around half naked. They half naked. Behind hanging out and everything. Breasts hanging out. And no black woman is pulling them up, saying anything to them and checking them. They walking around like that. And you worrying about a like on Facebook? We got so much work to do. We got too much work to do. And the things we bicker about, the things we pick at each other about, it's ridiculous. So my ask is this. Get serious and focus on your own growth and development, right? Don't point the finger at another individual if you haven't got your stuff together. That's what it comes down to. Don't be pointing the finger at somebody you got your stuff together. If your discipline it's not any good, don't point at the next person. Let's get serious. That's what time it is. Get serious. If you're not going to get serious, then have the courage to just say, I'm not with it altogether. State your case and get on the sideline. Right? But don't keep lingering around. Don't keep popping up in circles. Don't keep popping up on Zooms as if this is what you are about. Don't keep using language that you're not trying to transmit into behavior. Let's get serious. That's what time it is. That's my ask. That's my ask. Let's get serious and let's change, these conditions and let's make our ancestors proud.
As always, Bobby, it's a pleasure. It's an honor when you are able to dialogue with us and share that wisdom, and give it to us real with no chaser. If there's people out there that want to collaborate, they want to participate, take a few minutes to let them know where they can find you and where they can find your work as well. These books, what I'm saying, these books right here, these are must-haves, and not to collect dust on your shelf. These are implementation strategies that can be used. You always get that question, Baba. You in them interviews and all that, everything going good. And then they say, well, Baba Imhotep, what are some of the things that we should be doing? What's the solutions, Baba? We know the problems, Baba, but what's the solutions? And they say they got your books. They say they got your books, and then they start asking you what's in your books.
Yes, that's true. That happens a lot. But that's always, I like to keep it real simple. The easiest and the most efficient way to get to me is Baba Imhotep, Facebook, Baba Imhotep, Instagram. Just inbox me and we can take it from there. Anything you want to know about what I'm doing. If you want to get involved with the Race First Rally in any city near you, reach out to me because this Race First Rally, the Race First, belongs to us. I'm just a conduit. It belongs to us. So you want to get involved in some capacity, just reach out because what we want to do is we really want to build national consciousness so we can get to some type of national identity. But Race First becomes our national platform. It's the national platform. So just link up. Just link up and see how you want to get involved, how you want to help to make a Race First rally, successful. And if you can't get to any of the rallies, I always encourage you, make a donation. You know, make a donation. It don't take much to donate to the work that we're doing, and you can see that work happening. You know, we're not asking you to donate to us. You don't see it. You will see it happening. You know, you will see the different cities popping up. You will see the rallies taking place. You will see the stuff happen. You will see us in Baltimore doing our grub in the hood. You will see us doing the Race First Community Reunion Cookout. You know, help us push these initiatives to bring us together, because the motto is, let's get organized. So I'll leave y'all with that.
Thank you again, Baba. Dua for you. Honest to you in that sacred royal African family that you building, that race first empire that you building, you know, from visionary to visionary. We honor you and your family and your sacrifice and your dedication, you know, 3 decades to us, you know, even though we in a very thankless time dispensation of time, but the rewards come from our ancestors, you know, as we continue to move forward. So race first, Shabib Fortier, Black Power, and Black Unity.
Race first, and always appreciate you for being open this forum up to me. Race first, DB Fortier.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them that in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a. Let's get back to the
motive is best developed by recognizing the common enemy.